Welcome to WeCan, Madeline Di Nonno. I'm excited to have you. Thank you for sharing your story and insights today with us. You're the CEO and president of the Geena Davis Institute, where you work to advance diverse on-screen representation and drive transformative change in the entertainment and media industry. If they can see it, they can be it is a mantra that you have and we share at WeCan. You're also an executive producer of the Emmy-nominated People's Choice series Mission Unstoppable and the Gracie award-winning feature film documentary This Changes Everything. And the Geena Davis Institute was awarded a Governor's Award, Emmy from the Television Academy. You're also a speaker and moderator. Madeline, talk to us about the Geena Davis Institute and the incredible work you've done over many decades where you literally changed the entertainment landscape.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, and thank you for inviting me to join you. And greetings to all of your viewers from wherever you may be in the world. And the Institute is the vision of two-time Academy Award-winning actor Geena Davis, who, by the way, has a brand new big TV show coming out on Netflix on May 21st called The Boroughs. So if you're a fan of Geena, please check that show out. And so it's really her vision that came out of a very personal experience as a mother, of a toddler and then twin boys. And because of the iconic roles that she played, she had a much more heightened sense about how audiences, and particularly women and girls, would respond to her character. And as a result of that, when she started watching programming with her daughter, who was a toddler at the time, it struck her that she didn't see a lot of fictional female characters. And when she did see the one fictional female character, they were usually sidelined or their career ambition was royalty, which is terrific if you can land that, and really didn't contribute to the overall, story. And she thought, wow, in the, 21st century, how is it that we're not seeing women and girls take up half the space? And like any mom, what do? You turn to your friends first. Hey, did you notice in such and such film or such and such show, there really weren't many female characters? And her friends would say, no, I didn't notice. So then when she'd go on meetings for potential projects, she'd just bring it up and they would say no. Or the comment was, oh no, that's fixed. We had X female character or Y female character, and they didn't realize what they were saying. They thought because they had one, say, lead female character, they had the whole gender equity thing fixed. And so Geena, being a very decisive, very, very determined person, said, I need research. I need data. I need to know if I'm right. And she personally raised money and bootstrapped the first ever study of this nature. And that's where it was revealed that at that time it was about a 3-to-1 ratio of female characters to male characters. When it came to like secondary characters and background characters, it was like a 5-to-1 ratio. And at that time also, if you look behind the camera, and everybody knows what those numbers are, it was about a 5-to-1 ratio as well. And so she thought, well, how do I want to approach this? Because I'm in the industry and I want to continue to work. So she decided to take a very collaborative approach. And so the Institute has always been more of a B2B, a business to business. It's highly unlikely, although I would welcome it, that you would see our logo on a box of cereal any day too soon. But for any cereal brands out there, we'd love to talk to you. And it's really been this partnership with leading content creators, studios, networks, the like, film companies, that we've been able to take the data to them so that they can make more informed
Mm.
business decisions. Because when it comes down to it, we all have unconscious bias.
Yeah.
And it's not, it doesn't fall along gender lines. We just all have it because that's all we've ever seen.
Yeah.
And this is um, a global issue. So we've seen similar numbers when we've looked at global film markets. This isn't just a US issue, even though
Yeah.
we know the US output has great influence around the world. And that's how the whole thing got started. We're in our 21st year. I've had the privilege of running the Institute with Geena for the past, 17 plus years. And that's been our approach.
Madeline, and you did incredible work because in fact this ratio has changed and there is a lot more to change. So talk to us a little bit about you pivoting into a sort of broader, more inclusive campaign.
Well, for us, it was always about intersectionality. What is the intersection between gender and LGBTQIA, and gender and age, and gender and body type, and gender and disability, and gender and race ethnicity? So we've always looked at those identities. And then under those identities, we've looked at simply who is showing up, which is the identities, but then how are they showing up? And when it came to the how are they showing up, that's where we look at what are the activities? How is that character being represented? Do they have a job? Are they being marginalized? Are they shown as a leader? If it's a female character, is she hypersexualized?
Mm.
That kind of thing. We've looked at actually STEM as a subset, of careers. We looked at women in finance, and then we've recently, through the generous support of Procter and Gamble, have looked at some women's health areas that have been highly stigmatized. One, most recently in December, we released the first ever study on the portrayal of midlife and menopause,
Yeah.
which I know there's a lot of discussion on it on the internet.
Yeah.
But in terms of on-screen representation, when we looked at a few thousand films that narrowed down to 200 films that had a female character 40 plus, and out of that, there was only six mentions of, menopause. And
Mm.
then this coming May, we are planning on releasing the first ever portrayal of menstruation in teen TV. Again, another topic that has always been taboo, um, and highly stigmatized.
Yeah. Madeline, so talk to us about your journey, those pivotal points that led you to Geena Davis, led you to this job for over 17 years.
It was a personal decision. I've had two, I'd say, epiphanies in my life. I won't go into the first one, but the second one was two things happen. Like many of us, we're on a career path. We think we're going in a certain trajectory, and then something happens that give you pause. And that happened for me professionally, and it happened to me personally because a very dear friend of mine died very unexpectedly. And these two things came together like a perfect storm and gave me pause. And the thought bubble, as silly as it may sound, was could I use my power for good? And what does that mean? And how do I explore that? And so I had a very fortunate opportunity to do some consulting. And as a result of that consulting, in parallel path, as I said earlier, Geena started the Institute by accident.
Yeah.
And she realized she needed a certain type of person
Yeah.
to make her vision a reality and take it to the next level. And it's during that time that we came, together. And one of the things I had asked her was, so what do you want? And she said, I want world domination. So one of the first things I did is I was able to get her an invitation to give a closing keynote at the United Nations Economic Council Forum, where former President Bill Clinton had spoken the year before. I'm like, well, you want a
Amazing.
world domination? Let's go to the UN.
Amazing, Madeline. So, talk to us a little bit what this partnership that you have looks like, because I think we often see people running things. We often see people, very notable people starting something and bringing other people in. What does it feel like to you to be in this partnership, to drive a common vision forward?
Well, I think when people hear that there's a celebrity running an organization, the first question is, are they really involved, or is this
Mm,
just a pet project or, something of the like? And, for Gina, again, in addition to being very decisive, she is a roll up your sleeves, dig in. What you see
mm,
is what you get with her. She's
mm.
very sincere, very passionate. She's a deep thinker. She's a big thinker. She's very creative. And she does everything that we could possibly, ask her to do. So she gives so much of her time, for the Institute. Um, and then we have a wonderful, very, very small, powerful team. We have a wonderful research team led by Dr. Meredith Conroy. We have a, development team led by Elizabeth Kilpatrick. We're very small and mighty. We're very, very scrappy because if you look at philanthropy as a whole, most of philanthropy is based on kind of direct service, whether
Yeah.
it's in health or medical, or education. And we do narrative culture change. So for some people, it could be a little more cerebral. Not everybody understands the powerful sword that media yields when it comes to influencing hearts and minds and changing cultural behaviors. Some people do, some people don't, but that's really what we're doing.
Madeline, you said it. You change hearts and minds. You really change cultural narrative. You change systems. These are systems that had been in place forever and ever. And your work changes this. And you have an incredible success because, in fact, you have changed this landscape considerably. And so talk to us a little bit about those main learnings of really changing systems.
Well, this is before the pandemic. Right before the pandemic, we achieved gender parity for female lead characters in the largest grossing family films out of the US,
Mm,
and then followed by the highest Nielsen rated family children's programming. There's been many bumps in the road, since then between the pandemic, the
mm.
strikes, and now the great consolidation in the industry.
Yeah.
But we have teetered, at that gender parity. And one very interesting fact in looking within our children's study, what we found is most of children's programming for young children is animated.
Yeah.
And what we noticed is when there is the presence of a more human-like animated character, over indexes in terms of gender parity.
Mm.
But when it's, say, a talking tree or a mushroom or a flower, the default is male.
Voicemail.
So we see that there's so much intention and
Mm.
impact when it
Mm.
comes to, hey, we have a character that actually looks male or female, etc., looks human-like. Let's make sure, we have on-screen representation when it comes to a female character, but then somebody's just not thinking about when it comes to any other character that's speaking. So that's something we're trying to dive in on a little bit. And we've seen great, great movement when it comes to race, ethnicity. I'd say the dimensions where we still have a lot of work when you consider benchmarking against kind of a world population is when it comes to the LGBTQI community,
Mm.
when it comes to the disability community, which is very, very large, double digits, and also when we consider, body types. So
Mm.
there's still a lot more work that needs to be done.
So talk to us a little bit of what kind of an entertainment and media landscape would you like to see in the next 10 years?
Well, I mean, we would just like to see uh, media and entertainment reflect the population, as it
Mm,
is, so that people
mm,
can see themselves,
yeah,
on screen. And that's what people want because
yeah.
people aren't deeply inspired, especially children.
Mm,
Media can be a window into the world of careers. And if, black and brown girls, see a female character who is a leader or a scientist, it may give them the idea, well, that's something, that I could do. And we know, even though it's social science and it's not direct A plus B equals C, it's a great influence. And we're not looking at force feeding. We're not looking at checking boxes. And particularly if you're retailing something in history, the benchmarks change. But how do we just make sure that our society can be just better represented?
mm. So, what kind of a leader are you, Madeline, do you feel?
I would say that I am collaborative. I will say that the gas pedal is always to the floor, which to the chagrin of my team. So sometimes I have to lift the foot off the gas pedal. Um, and it's about relationship building. And I'd say I am a serial collector of relationships and people and networks. And I
Mm,
believe you have to give as much as you ask, or get. And I think that's really, really, important. And I think the other thing is don't judge a book by the cover because you don't know a chance encounter with someone, you have no idea, maybe the hundreds of people that they're in community with that could ultimately be of interest to you. So just because someone may not be in your field with a fancy title, don't think twice about the neighbor or who their children may be in school with or
mm.
etc. So just take every opportunity as being precious because it is.
And what does success look like for you?
Well, for us, it's about stability. And we're living in a very unstable,
Mm,
time. The industry is under a great contraction.
yeah,
It's about achieving these, seeing the numbers really move, where we can at least, benchmark,
mm,
against society. And it's also about legacy. There's a great opportunity to transfer all the research that we've done for more educational purposes. That's something that I would love to be able to, figure out because we know anecdotally that a lot of teachers and professors are using our research, but how do we make it easier for them? And how do we make it more accessible to people who just want to continue their education and knowledge? So I'd say that's kind of a legacy. And then just being able to scale. We do a lot of global work. I'd love to see us be more established, overseas as well.
Madeline, so you talked about this legacy. What do you feel? How would you like to, as an organization, matter going forward?
Well, just that our theory of change using data to drive advocacy is proven and is definitely a pathway for people who do want to make change.
Yeah. So, what plans and goals do you have in the next years?
Well, 2025 was surviving, so we
Mm,
could hopefully thrive in 2026.
yeah.
I'd say the next few years are challenging for all nonprofits
Mm,
all over the world.
yes.
There's a lot of challenges out there, so it's being able to navigate and be very, very strategic, lean in much deeper to partners
Mm,
and keep the work going. And also, looking for help for people to be ambassadors, get the research out there, invite us to present it, or even partner with us.
yeah. Madeline, so what tips would you have for maybe younger people who are listening who think, how does one make a difference? How can one think about this, this willingness that many humans have to make a difference?
There are a lot more tools.
Mm,
Youth today are using their voice. There are many social media platforms. They're getting heard. And I think that's a great way for them to advocate. There's just so many more ways to get your voice and your messages out there. And I definitely think allyship. It's
Mm,
really the power of collective impact on how you
yeah.
can make change. It's one person aligning with another person. And that's what builds movements.
I love what you just said, the power of collective impact. Yes, and what takeaways would you like our listeners to have from your story?
Well, I would welcome you. We have a free newsletter that's not just about us, but it's about the topic more broadly,
Mm,
about representation in media. Of course, no donation is too large. We have a membership. We would invite your readers to join us. And also, please just check out, our research, check out our disability study we just released, our menopause study, and by all means, share our work.
yeah, amazing. Madeline, thank you so much for coming on WeCan today, for sharing your experiences and insights. We are so inspired by your work. We love that you use data to push advocacy, that you give as much as you ask, and that you really push this power of collective impact forward, which is so needed in our world.
Well, thank you, Stephanie, for inviting me. Thanks to all of your listeners. And I'm very grateful.